Chosen one, you no longer fit the old mold. The power that has been quietly growing within you for years is now awakening. What you feel is not a coincidence, not an illusion. Your intuition is not of this world. You are not an ordinary person. You always knew you were different. What you felt, what you saw, what you realized, it was all a message. Now all the pieces are falling into place, and you remember your truth. You see what no one else can see, hear what no one else can hear. Your realization comes from a dimension that transcends this world. You have been chosen, and now the veil of secrets is opening. Your intuition is activated. Your energy field has changed. Your vibration has risen. The feelings that you could not make sense of in the past have now become your compass. You are no longer a sleeper, but an awakened one. Nothing will be the same from now on. The power within you will enable you to get rid of everything that does not belong to you. You will no longer look for your direction outside because all the answers are already within you. Open your eyes, listen to your intuition, walk with your truth. Your path is not ordinary. Write 77 in the comments immediately because you have a destiny written in the stars. They assumed they understood your essence, mistaking your stillness for surrender. For years, you were the calm in their storm, the one who allowed their demands to flow uninterrupted, never questioning, never protesting. They believed their endless take would never meet resistance, that your quiet resolve was an invitation to exploit. They thought your silence was a door left ajar for them to walk through without hesitation. Every burden they laid at your feet was dismissed as just part of the price they paid to keep their comfort, and each offense was buried beneath the layers of your patience. They never saw the storm inside you, the one that only awaited the right moment to rise. Now, that moment has come, and it is no longer possible for them to ignore the power of your stillness. Your silence begins to dismantle their understanding of you, but they cannot comprehend the depth of its meaning. Their instincts cry out that something has shifted, that the game they thought they controlled is no longer in their favor. In a desperate attempt to reclaim their position, they push harder, trying to provoke a response, any reaction. They throw everything at you, sharp remarks, manipulations, and guilt, but nothing sticks. You are beyond reach now. The side of you they feared, the side they mocked as an illusion, now stands before them, unshaken, impenetrable, and unafraid. It's not anger that they feel, but something colder. It is your indifference that truly terrifies them. For years, you carried the weight of their expectations, justifying their every action, smoothing over their faults, and picking up the pieces of their broken promises. You forgave their mistakes and wore their burdens as though they were yours to bear. You gave them your strength, your time, your energy, believing it was what you owed them. But you see now, none of it was ever yours to give. The responsibility was never yours. Without your quiet sacrifice, they are left exposed, standing alone with their own emptiness. No longer will you be the martyr. No longer will you silently carry their pain. You have become the force that moves through the world, and they were never prepared for this kind of power. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. They assumed your kindness had no limits, that your generosity would continue endlessly, like a river that flows with no end. They didn't ask if you were weary or if you needed a moment of rest. They only took, never thinking to give. They believed your loyalty was guaranteed as long as their needs were met, never considering the toll their demands took on you. Now, the exhaustion that once weighed on you is clear. You see the imbalance, how their gratitude was fleeting, their loyalty conditional, and your presence merely a convenience. All this time, you were a resource to be drained, not a person to be valued. And now, you feel the anger rise, the frustration of years spent in one-sided exchanges, where you gave and gave, expecting nothing in return. The debt they owe has gone unpaid, and now it is too late for them to correct it. The shock on their faces is not because you've changed. It's because for the first time, they are being forced to reckon with their actions. You can see it in their eyes as they scramble for the familiar, trying to regain the power they once had over you. Their manipulation, their guilt, their accusations, they are all just echoes of the past. And yet, something is different now. You don't cave. You hold your ground. The first time you say no, the first time you draw a line, the illusion they had crafted for so long begins to crumble. They look to you, expecting you to break, but instead, they are left with nothing but the uncomfortable truth. You are no longer the person they thought you were. When they reach out, expecting you to respond, you don't. When they demand an explanation for your change, you offer them none. You were never surprised when they took more than they gave. You never questioned when they drained you dry. But the moment you expect the same respect they've always received from you, the moment you stop accommodating them, they brand you as selfish. Let them call it what they will. Let them complain, whisper, and plot against you. The truth is simple. You were never meant to be their unending resource. Your generosity was never a guarantee, and now they will finally understand that their expectations of you were a privilege, not a right. For too long, you spent your time trying to explain yourself, hoping they would understand your heart, that they would see the depths of your sacrifices. You sought patience and clarity, believing that with the right words, they would change. But they never listened. Not really. They heard only what they wanted to hear and twisted your kindness into a tool to control you. You tried to be patient, to find the right balance, but that chapter is over. You no longer need to explain yourself. The first time you establish a boundary, hold your ground, they panic. They don't know what to do with this version of you. And it is in that panic that they truly realize you are no longer the person they once manipulated. You have become untouchable. They reach out, expecting your compliance, expecting you to apologize, to explain yourself, but you don't. You've learned the power of silence, the silence that speaks louder than any justification ever could. Your absence doesn't just send a message, it sends them into disarray. Without your words, without your actions, they are left with nothing, and they know deep down that you no longer owe them anything. The moment you stop bending, the moment you stop lowering your worth to make others feel comfortable, the shift is undeniable, and they feel it in every fiber of their being. They no longer have access to you. Your days have changed. The weight you once carried is gone. Your intentions now are clear, and your energy is protected. The people who surround you now are those who honor you, those who see you for who you are, not as something to be used. The others, the ones who sought to drain you, now feel uneasy in your presence. The dynamic has shifted, and they can no longer take what they once did. They feel it, though they can't explain it. Your strength is no longer something they can exploit. You've become untouchable, a force they can no longer manipulate. The energy that once sought to consume you now bounces off you. When someone tries to draw you into their drama, to pull you back into the chaos they thrive on, they find only resistance. Your calm is impenetrable, and your focus is unwavering. You no longer engage in their power struggles. When they speak, it's as though their words have no impact. They try to manipulate, guilt-trip, and draw you in, but you are unaffected. The walls they once pushed against are no longer there. You've built something stronger, a barrier of clarity, a shield of self-respect. They can no longer reach you, and they know it. They once had control. They once held the keys to your thoughts, your actions, your energy. But now you've become your own master. They see the shift in you, the way your power has grown. They try to remind you of where you started, to invoke old memories, to claim their place in your journey. But you see through it now. You no longer need their validation, their approval. You are no longer the person they thought you were. You have outgrown them, and that truth hits them hard. They can't control you anymore. You've moved beyond their reach. You move through the world differently now. No longer tied to their expectations, no longer caught in their web of manipulation. You walk free. They watch you from a distance, trying to figure out how they lost control, how the game they played with you no longer works. But the truth is simple. You were never meant to be their puppet. You were meant to soar, to walk in your own strength, your own power. And now, the world sees you for who you truly are, someone beyond their reach, beyond their control. For far too long, you bent to their whims, attempting to make them understand the depth of your heart and the sincerity of your intentions. You sought connection, thinking that if you just explained yourself enough, they would eventually see you for who you truly were. But they never did. They heard only what suited them, distorting your kindness into a tool to control you. They relied on your patience as a safety net, knowing that you would always return, soften, and forgive. But that cycle ends now. There is no announcement, no grand declaration. You don't owe them the closure they expect. The moment you set a boundary, a true, firm line, they sense it. They feel it in their bones, the absence of the access they once took for granted. They are confused by this new you. You can sense their frustration in the way their approach shifts. First, a casual check-in, as if testing the waters, then a sense of entitlement creeping in, followed by the pressure to comply. Finally, accusations fill the air. What's going on? Why won't you talk to me? Are you pretending to be someone else now? But you stay silent because you understand the truth. Silence is a far more powerful statement than anything you could ever explain. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. A subtle shift occurs in your daily rhythm. You wake, and there's a different energy around you, not oppressive, but magnetic. You no longer hesitate to set your intentions, nor do you question your need for space. Your home has become more than a shelter. It is a sanctum, a zone of protection, and only those with genuine intentions can enter. You've started noticing how differently people react to you now. Those who move in integrity feel relaxed near you, comfortable in your presence. They breathe easily, knowing they are seen for who they truly are. The energy that once siphoned from you now bounces away like a ball hitting a wall. Those who sought to drain you, to manipulate, or guilt you into serving their needs no longer have the same hold over you. They may step into your presence and feel that subtle discomfort, that pressure they can't quite name. Their words come out stilted, no longer flowing as easily as they once did. You're not responding to their tactics, not feeding into their drama. Instead, you reflect back what they put into the world, a mirror showing them the truth they've avoided. And for them, this is terrifying. A mirror is a dangerous thing for those who aren't ready to face themselves. In a crowd, you are a magnet for those who rely on draining others to keep their sense of self intact. They approach with their usual story, their endless complaints, but something is different now. You don't lean in with concern or offer your usual solutions. You just observe them. And as you do, they begin to feel the weight of their own emptiness. They don't understand why, but for the first time, their words don't land the way they used to. The ease with which they used to manipulate your energy begins to crumble. You've stopped feeding their neediness, and they are left exposed. For the first time, they experience the depth of their own void, and in that realization, they understand that they are alone in their own world, a world they created by leeching off others. Your mere presence now serves as a barrier, a line they cannot cross. No words are needed. They feel the shift. And without you needing to say a thing, they retreat. You haven't had to banish them. They've excused themselves, sensing that the door to your energy is no longer open to them. They used to know how to make you react. They had learned your triggers, the places where they could push to see your defense mechanisms kick in. But those days are over. You've become unpredictable to them, a mystery they can no longer solve. The insults come, but you don't flinch. The tension they expect to build doesn't happen. They wait for you to play into the drama, to get defensive. But instead, you offer them only calm. Your gaze is still. There is no anger, no frustration, no need to explain your side. Just an impenetrable stillness that shifts the energy in the room. They feel the change immediately. The words they once used to dominate the room fall flat. The room no longer bends to their manipulations. It bends to your stillness, your unmovable nature. They try again, louder this time, pushing harder, but you don't move. In that silence, something happens. They begin to hear the sound of their own insecurity. Their voice becomes the only sound in the room, and they can't escape it. They can no longer hide behind your reactions. They are left with themselves, and that is the most uncomfortable place they could be. You no longer need to respond to their games. You don't need to retaliate or explain your actions. The silence you hold in the face of their demands is a far more powerful answer than any words you could speak. They believed they could control you, that they could manipulate you into submission, but now they face the truth. They no longer have the power they once did. They've lost their hold over you, and that realization is more unsettling to them than any confrontation you could have given them. They used to try to remind you of what they did for you, the lessons they taught, always with the unspoken assumption that you would owe them something in return. But you've changed. You no longer need their validation. You no longer seek their approval. The way you carry yourself now is different. You don't need to explain your worth. or justify your actions. And that is when they realize they've lost their influence. They no longer hold a position over you. The pedestal they put themselves on has crumbled, and you no longer recognize their authority. You don't need it anymore, and they know that now. You've always been the one they turned to, the one they relied on, expecting you to be the constant while they drifted, taking what they could. For so long, you tried to make them understand, believing that once they saw your heart, once they saw your truth, they would change. But they never did they? They took your words, twisted them to fit their narrative, and used your kindness as a crutch, knowing you'd always return to pick up the pieces. But no longer. That time has passed, and now when you set your boundaries, they feel the weight of it. No longer will you allow them access. The control they once had slips from their grasp. Now their reactions are full of uncertainty. The shift in you is palpable, and they try to reassert their dominance. They bring up the past, the things they taught you, the lessons you supposedly owe them. They want to remind you of your history together, hoping to pull you back into their web. But you see through it, as you always have. Their power was never truly theirs to hold. It was something you allowed, something you believed in, only because you didn't know better. Now, you've learned, and they are left trying to recapture what they've lost. The way you navigate the world has changed, and it's noticeable. The air around you now feels different, charged with intent and purpose. There is no longer hesitation in your actions, no longer doubt in your choices. Your space is yours to protect, and anyone who enters now must respect that. Those who approach you with honesty and integrity will find comfort, while those who once took advantage of your energy now sense the shift. They feel the tension in the air, unsure of their place, as they realize they no longer have access to your kindness without merit. The ones who once fed off your energy now recoil at your presence. They don't know what's different, but they sense something has changed. They can no longer pull the strings they once used to manipulate your emotions. The words they speak now seem hollow, their usual charm falling flat. You are no longer the vessel they could drain. Instead, you have become a reflection, and reflections hold a mirror to those who are not ready to face the truth. The truth is, they cannot control you anymore. You've always been their sounding board, their emotional dumping ground, but no longer. When they come to you, expecting you to absorb their pain and offer your support, they are met with silence. The stories they spin are no longer received with open arms. The void they once filled with your compassion is now empty, and they are left standing in the discomfort of their own turmoil. The truth is now clear. You are no longer an emotional sponge for their unresolved issues, and in that silence, they are forced to reckon with the truth they've long avoided. They realize they can no longer manipulate you. They know they've lost their place in your life, and it stuns them. There's no need for you to push them away or explain your actions. The absence of your engagement is enough. They know they can no longer drain from you what they once did, and without your presence in their lives, they are left facing themselves for the first time in a long while. They once knew how to get to you. The right words, the right timing, the right pressure, and they could make you react, make you feel guilty, make you bend. But now, something has shifted. The moment they try to pull you into their web, they find themselves faced with a calm, impenetrable force. Your response is no longer what they expect. They try to provoke you, but you remain untouched. And in that silence, they begin to feel their own weakness. They realize the control they once had is gone, and they can't force you back into the mold they crafted for you. They push harder, desperate to find any crack, any weak spot they can exploit. But you stand firm. The insults come louder, the manipulations more blatant, but it's no use. They can't shake you. They try to make you react, but you remain unbothered, still, a mirror reflecting their own insecurity back at them. In the quiet, they are forced to listen to the noise inside their own head, and that's when they finally understand. They can no longer control you. Now is the time to share God's blessings by clicking the super thank you button on YouTube. You can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed and let the light of the Lord guide your path. You no longer feel the need to explain yourself or engage in their power plays. The silence between you is more potent than any words could be. They believed they could keep you tethered, that they could continue to pull you into their world of manipulation, but they were wrong. They can no longer claim your energy as their own. They now face the uncomfortable truth. They have no power over you anymore. You have stepped beyond them, and they know it. And now, they find themselves standing in the ruins of the world they built around you. A world where you were the foundation. For years, they relied on you to keep the peace, to carry their burdens, to absorb their pain. They convinced you it was love, that it was your duty, that you had to keep giving. But you see it now. You've stopped playing the role they assigned to you, and the cracks in their world are impossible to ignore. They cannot hold it together without you. And now they panic. The moment you stop giving them what they need, everything begins to crumble. They attempt to pull you back, using guilt, shame, and the weight of tradition. They remind you of your responsibilities, your duties, but you remain unmoved. You no longer feel the need to explain why you won't conform. When you refuse to carry the weight they've imposed on you, they realize they have no control over your choices. You are no longer the one they can sacrifice. They expected you to always be available, always giving, always accommodating. They assumed that no matter how much they took from you, you would always return. But you see the truth now. They were never interested in growing with you. They only wanted to drain your energy without ever giving anything in return. The moment you raise your standards, the shift is immediate. Some push back, accusing you of selfishness, reminding you of where you started. But they don't understand. Growth isn't about forgetting where you came from. It's about refusing to be used for someone else's gain. As you evolve, you stop explaining, stop apologizing, and stop lowering your value for others. You raise your standards. You stop working with those who only take, who never contribute, who aren't serious about their own growth. And in doing so, you lose some connections. Some people leave, but you don't regret it. What remains are the people who truly see you, who respect your energy, and who meet you at your level. They are the ones who understand that when you stop lowering your worth, the only ones left are the ones who are ready to rise. There was a time when they scrolled past you, unaware of your potential, assuming you were just another voice trying to be heard. But now, things have changed. You no longer seek validation or approval. Your presence now demands attention, not because you're trying to convince anyone, but because you stand in your truth without apology. Your words are no longer fragile offerings, waiting for someone to listen. They are declarations of who you are, and they stand firm.